Who is Shane Norman, and why do Blake Lively's attorneys ask both Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath in their deposition? We're going to get into it. Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Mandy Magnan. I'm an actress, writer, producer, and director in Toronto, movie reviewer, pop culture, and your YouTube commentator for everything. It ends with never. In yesterday's video, I was trying to get through the lies of okay, if we just piece together everyone's story, where do we find the truth, right? There were some blanks because, of course, we don't have a lot of Blake Lively's own deposition, which is very strange. But something I did notice is after they ask about Claire Ayub to both Jamie and Justin, they move right on to Shane Norman. So that's where we're going to pick it up in today's video. I also want to go over the onesies and the question with that scene because now we've all seen the video and it's like, this is what we're at, right? We're at Justin calling Blake sexy in her onesie wardrobe, which I don't know how many onesies I've seen people wear that are super sexy, but I digress. And then I did just find there's so many interesting parts in the depositions, but I do want to go over two interesting pages or sections that I kind of found in Justin and Jamie's. So if that sounds good, well, grab your emotional support lip gloss. I just finished 2 auditions, so I'm kind of vibing, okay? My energy is a little bit high. As we talk about lip gloss, I just want to say I am never above Dollarama, Dollar Tree, or any kind of consignment store or dollar store, okay? Actually, I love them. And today I was at Dollarama picking up a bunch of things as one does, and I found these lip glosses. This is why I don't do unboxings, because I tear the boxes up, but they're called Beauty Impressions. There was 8 lip glosses for $4, so I was like, how can you go wrong? So I ripped open the box and I tried this one first, and to my surprise, it's flavored caramel drizzle. And it smells so good like caramel. Honestly, it's so delish. And it's actually a really nice gloss. It's super glossy. I wore it for both auditions. It didn't wear. So, this Dollarama, if you find these Beauty Impression lip glosses, get it. 8 for $4, okay? I'm not going to gatekeep. That is the best deal ever. Even in some drugstores now, lip gloss can go anywhere from $15 to $20, girl. No, okay? 8 for $4 or something. So just wanted to share that with y'all. Let's get into Shane Norman. Who is Shane Norman and why do they keep asking about him? Now, I am pretty sure that this is the discrimination case that went against Wayfair. I'm pretty sure that's who this is, but I do want to hear from Justin and Jamie in their deposition. And I remember this lawsuit for racial discrimination, but it wasn't against Justin. I believe it had nothing to do with Justin, I think. Anyway, we'll hear from them, but kind of strange. I just think it is a little bit strange that, for example, they're not allowed to ask Blake Lively about her sexual history, of course, right? But it seems like the lawyers for Lively can ask Justin and Jamie about everything, including Claire Ayub, including now this Shane Norman, including any thing or any problem or any complaint Justin has ever had against him. So I don't know. It's just a little bit strange. It's a little bit weird here. And of course, they did ask them. So let's read Justin's first. Immediately after talking about Claire Ayub, as I said previously, in both depositions, they go right into Shane Norman. So I feel like they had a checklist of where to go next for each lawyer. The questioning lawyer for Justin Baldoni is Michael Gottlieb, and it starts on page 189, I believe. Yes, 189. Okay, and it's just there on the top where it says, okay, who's Shane Norman? Presumably not the woman you're talking about right now, because it was such a hard turn. They were all talking about Claire Ayub. He was being questioned about Claire, and then all of a sudden they talk about the girl in the hotel room, which Justin is like, that never happened. I've never invited a girl to my hotel room. I didn't even know that existed until Blake Lively filed her CRD. And then all of a sudden he's like, okay, fine. Well, then who's Shane Norman? He's like, presumably not the woman you're talking about right now. Who is Shane Norman? Shane Norman is a former employee of Wayfair Entertainment. And Wayfair Entertainment was a predecessor company to Wayfair Studios? Correct. And what was your role with respect to Wayfair Entertainment? Founder, co-founder. What was Shane Norman's role with Wayfair Entertainment? Shane Norman was brought on by our CEO at the time to assist with the building and the creation of, at the time, which was the beginning of Man Enough, the podcast. There was no podcast. It was to help in the launch of the book Man Enough and to figure out ways that we could do activations and get more men involved. Did you know that Mr. Norman was being hired before he was hired? I knew, yes. I was introduced to Mr. Norman and we had a job interview together, yes. Okay, you interviewed Mr. Norman. I did, well, the last interview because he would be working with me directly. Okay, a number of people interviewed Mr. Norman. You were the final interview? Correct. And you approved hiring him? I did. You thought he would be good at the job for which you were hiring him? He presented fantastically. Okay, and it didn't work out that way, right? Objection. It did not. Mr. Norman was extremely abusive to women? I think you're referring to Mr. Saritz's testimony. I am. I don't know if I would characterize it that way. We discovered he was very combative, and we had been made aware after some time, which we were frustrated. We didn't know earlier that he had made several women cry, and he was not listening to their ideas. Let me read you what Mr. Saritz said and ask you if it's true. Okay, what Mr. Saritz, I had to learn how to pronounce his name. Mr. Saritz said, as read, we had an issue where we had an employee who was extremely abusive to women. It got to the point where each woman they got in a meeting with was left with tears. Is that a truthful statement about Shane Norman? I don't know if that's a truthful statement. I don't know if every woman that he was in a meeting with left in tears. Did that statement fairly capture the gist of Mr. Norman's behavior when he was employed by Wayfair Entertainment? I can't speak to Mr. Saritz's intention with those words, but my understanding was that is maybe an exaggeration, but very well could be Mr. Saritz's view on what happened. Would you agree with me that Mr. Saritz is a very thoughtful man? Objection. Yes. And you were here during his deposition for at least part of it, right? I was. He considered my question very carefully before he answered them. Do you remember that, right? Objection, objection. I do remember that. Yes. And seemed to me he was being truthful and trying to be accurate. Is that your impression also? I'm not saying that he wasn't truthful, but you are saying that he was exaggerating. Objection. I said that in my opinion, having handled the situation alongside him, I wouldn't have characterized it that way. Do you know he said a little bit later that there were many complaints made about Mr. Norman? And when I said many complaints, do you know about how many? He answered, virtually every woman that they had ever worked with. Is that true? It's my understanding that Mr. Saritz was not directly involved in any of this outside of when it finally came to our attention from the CEO. So he's free to express his opinion. But as the person that was there, I don't believe that that's a fair understanding of exactly what happened. I think it was far more nuanced than that. Was an investigation performed? I believe so, yes. Did the investigation corroborate that virtually every woman that Mr. Norman worked with had complained about his behavior? I don't remember the full details, but I imagined it did, yes. Did the investigation provide a basis for removing Mr. Norman from the position he was in? Yes. Did you agree with that? Yes. Did you review whatever the final report or recommendation was that described Mr. Norman's behavior? Yes. Did you find that informative in understanding what had occurred? Yes. And you found it informative in understanding what had occurred, even though you had been present for a lot of what occurred. Is that right? Objection. Not correct. You weren't present for any of the incidences that were described in the report of the investigation into Mr. Norman's behavior? I was not. That report was in writing? Correct. Do you know who conducted it or wrote it? An outside group of former attorneys who do HR, I believe. Do you know who that was? I don't recall the name. Multiple women. I think it was 2 or 3 women. Was it important to you that it was women who did this investigation? Objection. I don't remember it being important to me. Well, you just brought it up right now. You said it was multiple women. I didn't ask their genders. Why did your brain go to that? Objection. If you have a neuroscientist here, we could ask him. I have no idea. But as I recall, I can give you my understanding. I see things in pictures, so I'm very right-brained, I believe. And when I thought of the women who I had just seen in my mind on Zoom, they were in fact women. And so my brain saw that they were women. I said women. I hope that answers your question. It does. Did you support Mr. Saritz's decision about the employment action to take with respect to Mr. Norman? I did. And you know that employment action meant that he remained on with Man Enough in a consulting or part-time position for a number of months? Yes. And he continued to be paid? Yes. And you supported that? I did. Who is Liz Plank? Liz Plank is my former co-host of the Man Enough podcast. How long was she your co-host? Maybe 3 years? What changed? What changed that caused her not to be your co-host anymore? I imagine the New York Times article and the entire world thinking I was a bad man. Did she tell you that? No. Did you talk to her when she quit? No. Did you read anything that she wrote about why she didn't want to be a co-host anymore? I believe it was shown to me. Yes. Do you recall what it said? I can't recall exactly what it said. No. Was it not important to you to understand why Ms. Plank wanted to discontinue a 3-year professional relationship at that point in time? Objection. Can you ask the question a different way? I can try. You said you didn't talk to her after she quit. No. And you didn't reach out to talk to her? No. You weren't interested in hearing from her perspective on why she didn't want to be the co-host of this podcast that was very important to you anymore? Objection. That's not it at all. So what is it? Objection. My memory, if it's correct, was that when she resigned from the podcast, she had asked to pass on that she didn't want anyone to reach out to her. Who did you hear that from? I believe the person who runs the Man Enough podcast. Who is that? Tara? His name is Tara T. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, first and last name, please. Oh, right. I'm having a hard time thinking on his last name right now. Forgive me. Okay, so it's someone named Tara. We don't currently have a Man Enough podcast, but he ran it, yes. And Jamey Heath was also the one who informed me. Okay, so someone named Tara and Mr. Heath informed you that Liz Plank did not want to be contacted, that she didn't want anyone from the show contacting her. Did they tell you why? No. Did you ask? I assumed. What did you assume? I assumed that she didn't want to have a conversation about why she left. Okay, and I tried to respect that. On the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people to start your day? I think some people would qualify me as a hugger. Is that a yes? Objection. I wouldn't call it a practice. I also have a practice of high-fiving people, so... My question was, on the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people or giving hugs at the start of the day? I wouldn't call it a practice, but if you ask a different version of the question, I might give you the answer that you want. Your lawyer is going to get really mad at me if you try to do that. Are there any days that you can think of where you began the day by hugging multiple people at the start of the day's work? Objection. Sure, yes. On more than one day? Yes. Was it every day on the production of It Ends With Us? Did I give a hug to more than one person on every day at the start of the day? I'm sure I did or got hugged. I don't know if it was exclusively giving. Did Mr. Heath? Objection. I wasn't with Mr. Heath all day, every day. Okay, on the first day of shooting, do you know if you greeted people at the start of that day, May 15th, 2023, with hugs? I don't, but I imagine I did and was given hugs too. Cast members and crew. Objection. Is that a question? Did you hug cast members and members of the crew on May 15th, the first day of production? I imagine hugs were exchanged between cast members and crew, including perhaps some people you had not met before. Objection. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe. Did you have any conversations before you hugged people on your set about whether they were comfortable? I'm so sorry. Get in character. We're here for hugging and the word sexy, guys. Like, I can't. This is crazy. Did you have any conversations before you hugged people on your set about whether they were comfortable with physical touching? Not any more than people had with me when they came to give me a hug. I think there's just an energy, like, no offense, but I wouldn't give you a hug. So, but I just think there's a human energy that two people maybe unconsciously exchange. I don't know if you believe, I'm not saying you have to believe in energy, but I'm just saying that I think there's a human greeting when you're starting something that is going to be a journey that's not going to be easy. When you're creating an environment, and oftentimes, like, the way I just move through the world, I think I'm very open, and people would oftentimes will hug me, present counsel excluded. No hurt feelings, sir. You are the director of this film, right? Yes. And you're a supervisor? Yes. And the policy that we walked through in some length before, once the things in references, one of the things it references in, it is hugging. Do you recall that? I do recall that. You also understand, because it's part of how you set up your studio, that there are power dynamics in play in the workplace, right? Objection, yes. And you also understand, because you've spoken eloquently and admirably about many of these topics, about violence and abuse, that there are some people that have deeply held traumas that they have not exposed or fully gone through or talked about, right? Objection, of course. And that might include somebody that has had a trauma that makes them just uncomfortable with being Oh, Gottlieb, you gotta be kidding me. I'm so sorry. And that might include somebody that has had a trauma that makes them just uncomfortable with being touched. Absolutely. Okay, you hugged Miss Lively on multiple occasions on the set, right? Yes. Every day? Objection, no. How many times would you estimate that I hugged Miss Lively on the set? So not outside of the set environment, but at work on the set. Objection. Are these hugs? I am so sorry. Are these hugs that I initiated, or are these hugs that I was a recipient of? You can characterize it however you'd like. I just want to be as accurate in my testimony as possible. Okay, as it relates to the hugging, that was my question. That was a question. Which one? You can include hugs that you believe you initiated and hugs you believe Miss Lively initiated. Objection. Like, lump them all together? Sure, your best estimate. Okay, number of times? Objection. Maybe a greeting and an exit. So at the most, maybe again, I don't know. I don't know. That's my answer to you, Mr. Gottlieb. I don't know. Fair enough. And when you don't know, that's what I always want your answer to be. I don't know. And then they go into the makeup artist. This is crazy. Are they saying that Blake Lively has deeply held traumas that she's uncomfortable with even being touched? That can't be. We can play the tapes back of her in the PR, all of her tapes, all of her rules, all of the way that she acts with people. This is a stretch. We're here for hugging is crazy. But also the way they were like trying to pull in Liz Plank, the ultimate pick-me. Get out of here. In Jamie HEATH, they actually talk about Shane Norman twice. They bring him up on page 152 and then again at 380 at 380. And the questioning attorney for Jamie HEATH was Ezra Hudson. And it starts here on page 152. And again, this was right after asking about Claire Ayoub. Okay, there was also some testimony by Mr. Baldoni about, and also Mr. Saritz about Shane Norman. Do you recall that? I do. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Saritz claimed that Mr. Norman, there were multiple complaints from multiple women about his behavior towards them. Do you recall that? I do. And that there was an investigation conducted. Is that right? There was. By some outside entity. Is that right? Yes. And were you involved in overseeing that? I was not involved in overseeing that. Did you have any involvement in that? This was prior to Wayfair Studios, into the merge of Wayfair Studios, or not the merge, but into the formation of Wayfair Studios and part of the closing of entertainment. So when this began, I was not at Wayfair Studios, but I became involved because it was trailing into me joining. I see. And it turned into a lawsuit, right? You can say that. Mr. Norman sued Wayfair, correct? He did. And he also sued Mr. Baldoni, correct? He did. And have you seen his lawsuit? I have. And you know his lawsuit does not reference complaints about women, complaints by women, or an investigation or a termination related to those issues. Objection. I don't recall what's in his lawsuit. His lawsuit claims that he was terminated in retaliation for raising complaints to Mr. Baldoni that the CFO and other employees were being racially insensitive to him. I know what his complaint says in that regard, yes. You know what it says in that regard? Okay. And he says that are you aware that Mr. Norman made complaints about racial insensitivity during his employment? You mean after he was removed? That during his employment. Objection. I can't speak to during that time employment. I was not there. You were not there. Okay. But I can speak to the investigation, and I can testify that Steve Saritz's testimony, his recollection, is not accurate. It's not accurate? It is not accurate. Okay, in what way? Well, he was not removed for harassing women. That is completely inaccurate. He was investigated for bullying, and the investigation determined that out of those people, 2 of them were men. 1 was a woman. And for the anti-harassment, there was no charge found. There was nothing wrong with him in that regard. For bullying, he was found to be liable for bullying, and that was the recommendation to have him moved. So his recollection is confused with, I think, a lot. So, well, we might ask to see that investigation, because I think that was one of the things we asked for, were documents regarding prior complaints, and then we can see for ourselves. Objection. Can you stop making speeches? Just ask a question, please. I was going to ask him if just ask your questions. Yeah, ask questions. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry. Dang. Shapiro does not mess around. Yeah. And I know that he ended up suing, yes, us for racial discrimination, a black man hired and fired by a black woman. After he was removed for the reasons why I said. Okay, you said you were involved in the negotiation of the agreement with Sony for It Ends With Us. I was. Okay. And did you sign that agreement? I did. Okay. And then they move on. But then again, they bring it up like hours later on page 380. Okay, we talked earlier about Shane Norman's lawsuit against Wayfair. Do you recall that? I do. Wayfair was also sued by Travis Flores, correct? Yes, and Travis Flores sued for copyright and infringement based on his book 3 Feet Apart, correct? I don't know what the name of the book was, but I think that's basically the story. And he claimed that the Wayfair movie 5 Feet Apart was based on his story, right? I believe something like that. And it was your lawyer, Brian Freedman, who represented Mr. Flores in that lawsuit, correct? I've learned something to that extent, but I don't believe I was at Wayfair at that time. Okay, and did you ever see Mr. Freedman's statement in January of 2025 about the fact that he was representing you after having represented Mr. Flores in a lawsuit against Wayfair? Objection. I vaguely recall something about it. And do you recall that he said that the previous lawsuit that he filed against Mr. Baldoni and Wayfair, that Mr. Baldoni had done nothing wrong and that there was no liability on their part whatsoever? Objection. You're saying that that's in his statement? Yes. Do you recall hearing that statement from Mr. Freeman? Objection. I have a vague memory of that as something of that. And do you recall Mr. Freedman's statement in which he said, as a result, the case was resolved without any liability on Justin or Wayfair or other defendant's part. This only further confirmed to me that Justin and Wayfair are exceedingly honorable and highly ethical. Okay, objection. Do you recall that statement from Mr. Freedman? I have a vague memory of it. Did it concern you at all that Mr. Freedman sued you even though he believed his client did nothing wrong and that there was no liability on your part whatsoever? Objection. Can you repeat that, please? Did it concern you at all that Bryan Freedman sued Wayfair and Mr. Baldoni even though he believed that they did nothing wrong and that there was no liability on their part whatsoever? Objection. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the timing of that, so I can't really speak to that. It could certainly mean that after he took the case and was moving forward, he learned otherwise, and that was his statement. I don't know. I can't speak to that. Well, did it concern you that Mr. Freedman publicly stated that his own client claims had no merit? Objection. I didn't give it a mind. You didn't? You didn't give it a mind? No. You didn't think about that? I did not. Okay, did you know that Mr. Flores was dead at the time Mr. Freedman made his statement? Objection. I am aware that Mr. Flores had passed, yes. Okay, counsel, this has nothing to do with the lawsuit. I don't need your speaking objections. My questions are done. We're moving on. Thank you. Don't waste my time on the record with that. Well, you shouldn't waste the witness's time and counsel's time. Crosstalk. I'm going to hand the witness a document with matters, not proper matters of discovery. That's a speaking objection. Please do not make it. Thank you. You got 14 minutes left. Are you aware that Mr. Freedman threatened your 14? Counsel. Let's go off the record. You can say whatever you want to say to me off the record. Let's go back on the record. Let's go back on the record. I'm not going on the record. You're not using my time. Crosstalk. If you're going to use them up. Go. Off the record? No. Go back on the record. I am not using my time for you to talk. Are you aware that Mr. Freedman threatened journalists on Wayfair's behalf? Objection. I don't know what you're referring to. Are you aware that Mr. Freedman told a journalist that you're a liar and dishonest and I'm coming after you? Objection. I don't know what you're referring to. I'm going to hand the reporter a document, hand the witness a document that we've marked as Exhibit 22. Okay. This is a text chain between Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath dated December 24th, 2022. Actually, can we switch that out? That was Exhibit 7 that I had previously marked. I'm going to take that one because I'm going to give you Exhibit 7 instead. Do you recognize this as a text chain between you and Mr. Baldoni on December 24th, 2022? I don't have Exhibit 7. I have 6 and 8. You can take Exhibit 22 as now Exhibit 7. Okay. What was your question? I just asked you if you recognize this text chain. I don't yet. I need to look at it. Have you looked at this long enough to recognize it as a text chain between you and Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath? Objection. I haven't because I don't recall this. You don't recall this text chain? I don't. Okay. Do you recall Mr. Baldoni sending you a text in which he drafted a communication to Warren Zavella? I'm sorry, as I said, I don't recall this. So, do you know who Warren Zavella is? I do. You don't recall Mr. Baldoni giving you a draft of a text communication to Mr. Zavella? I don't recall this. So, okay. Well, you can see on page 333492 that Mr. Baldoni has written you a text. I can see that. Okay, at the top of the text it says Warren. Do you see that? I'm so sorry. If you're going to hand me a document, I want to be able to read it. I'm only asking you if you see the word Warren. Do you need to read the whole text to answer the question, Mr. Heath? Objection. But before you ask me a question about it, if you're going to hand me a document, I would like to know what I'm reading. I am not asking you questions about the whole document. Yeah? I'm only asking you if you see the word Warren. Do you see that? Objection. Okay, I can see Warren. Okay, thank you. And then if you look at the first paragraph that Mr. Baldoni has written here, I'm sorry. Are you refusing to answer questions unless you read this entire document? Objection. If you're going to ask me something about a document, I just want to be able to read it. Go ahead, finish reading it. You've already read about half of it. You can finish. No, I hadn't. I would like to read it if you're going to ask me. I just want to understand what I'm responding to. Okay, let's go off the record. We're not going off the record. I'm taking a break. Yes, we are. We're not going off the record. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It's not up to you. This is my deposition. We're going off the record. How much time is left? There's 6 minutes left. Oh, sorry, 7 minutes. Okay, I have 7 minutes, 9 minutes left. 9, there you go. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll come back for the last 9. Let's make a record before you go. Let's make a record. Not on the record, not on my time. Can we go on the record? Absolutely not. Okay, you can go on the record and make any statement you want. I'm going to go on the record, but you're not taking my 9 minutes. You are not taking my 9 minutes to make a record. So you can just ask more questions about a dead former client of one of the lawyers in this case. And how is that? How is that proper? I understand that you are new to this case and you don't understand everything. I want to go on the record. I don't care whether crosstalk. I'm new to this case, but I'm not new to the practice of law. I've been practicing law for over 30 years. I know the rules, ma'am. We're going off the record. I have 9 minutes left and I'm going to use them to ask some questions. If you want to make a record, you can add time and make whatever record you want. Okay. Will you agree that you will? This is not counting against my 9 minutes? That's fine, but I want it on the record. I want a record of what's happened. You want a record of what's happened? Yes, you can make a record if you will. I would like to, if you will let me. If I will let you, if you will agree that it is not going to impact my 9 minutes. I've already said fine to that. Do I need to say it again? Okay, you can make whatever record you want. I'm going to go take a break. Okay, can we go on the record for this? You don't need the video for this. You can just do it I'll do it on the video. Where I don't need the video. We're still on the record. Are we on the record? Yeah. I just want to say we had a break less than an hour ago. We made clear to counsel that we didn't want another break, that this same witness is being deposed tomorrow, that this process is exhausting, that he's expected to testify for another 7 hours plus breaks tomorrow. She came back from a break and part of her questioning had nothing whatsoever to do with the claims and defenses in this case. She was clearly at the point where the questioning becomes optional and rhetorical, and she engaged in a series of questions aimed to drive a wedge between this deponent and his lawyer and to tarnish the reputation of the lawyer. That is how she has used her time. Excuse me, I'm making a record. Then we are going to excuse the witness from the room because you are speaking and coaching the witness right now. I'm not coaching the witness at all. This is totally inappropriate. You are coaching the witness. You are making a very long speaking objection. There is no purpose. There is no judge in the room. Everything that you're saying is you can make an argument about it. We're not going to do this in front of the witness. Technically, a speaking objection is when there's a question pending and you object to the question. No, I'm not objecting to. Speaking on the record is not permitted like this. You're objecting to the break. Objection noted. We're taking a break. All right, this is silly. Okay, this is silly. I do not want you to coach the witness anymore. We're not coaching the witness. Make other statements on the record about the witness. If you insist on doing that, the witness should leave the room, okay? I am going to defer to you in every respect. Whatever I need to do to let you make my statement on the record, I'm going to do, okay? Then you can excuse the witness from the room if you insist on making this statement. Okay, Jamie, go outside as I continue. After we made clear our concerns about breaks, the witness is, I would like to also note that you are not the representative lawyer. If you cut me off again, I'm going to call Judge Lyman on the phone right now. You want to tell him that you are not defending the deposition or wanting to make a 10-minute speaking objection? Can you let me speak? And then you can make whatever speech you want about me and you can say whatever you want about me. But you are going to let me, Mr. Bach, you are not defending this deposition. You are a participant here who has decided to make a speech on the record. We're not kids on a playground. You just said if Mr. Heath left the room, I could make my statement. Now you're not letting me make my statement. Can I make my statement? You can make your statement over my objection, okay? That you just let me know when I can make my you should statement. I'm just going to sit here and not say you should not be making any statements on the record, anything until you tell me I can make my statement. If you are disrupting the deposition in order to make a statement as the non-defending lawyer in this deposition. Are you done? And I don't agree. I excuse the witness. If you want to continue, I'm just going to let you do this so we can finish this deposition, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to take our last 9 minutes. So if you want to make this statement for whatever reason, go ahead. Are you done? I am done. Okay, can I talk? You can talk. Okay. As I've been saying, after we made clear that we're concerned about the breaks, we're concerned about the witness being tired, the next line of questioning had nothing to do with this case, but simply had to do with the client and his lawyer and trying to drive a wedge. And now the questioning lawyer wants to take yet another break. It's clear from the content of her questioning that she's no longer focused on the merits of the case and that she's conducted a substantive questioning. I don't see another need for a break. I think the deposition is practically over. The client is tired and has to go home tomorrow. I think this is abusive. I think it's unnecessary, and I object. All right, 10 minutes off the record. Thank you. And then they come back and she starts asking about the HR representative, Miss Barnes Slater. Wow, Ezra. Well, I didn't know we were going to go all that way, but then it just started going, and Ezra's little crash out. I totally forgot about that crash out, but as you read it, going into that crash out, it's like, what is she talking about? She's asking about Claire Ayub, and then she goes to Shane Norman, and then she's asking about all of this other stuff. Then she starts asking about Brian Freeman's past clients. It's like, get to the point already, Let's talk onesie and see what we can find in the depositions about this sexy comment. Ooh, the onesie. So they don't ask about the onesie in Jamie Heath's deposition, but we do have the onesie comment inside of Justin's. Starting with Michael Gottlieb. We talked a little bit earlier about a comment using the word sexy involving both Miss Slate and Miss Lively, right? Yes. The comment to Miss Lively, am I right, that occurred during the filming of the bar scene? The onesie bar scene, yes. The onesie bar scene. And is it correct that you made a comment that Miss Lively, her dress, and I'll let you characterize it, it looked sexy or hot? No. What did you say? It wasn't a dress, so I was just answering your question. I didn't mean to say her dress, but it appears from the transcript I did. How would you characterize your comment using the word sexy? In a conversation where I was speaking to Miss Lively about her wardrobe as the director, I wanted to use the onesie because all the characters were wearing onesies. She had a large jacket on, and we were having a bit of a negotiation as I was trying to gently ask her to remove it. And like many conversations with Miss Lively, there's a back and a forth that can go on for quite some time. And it got to the point where I believe I said to her that it looked hot, to which she replied earlier she had said she thought it was cute, and that's why she wanted to wear it. And then I said it down the line. I had said it looked hot, and she said, that's not what I'm going for. And then I made a joke. I said, sexy? She goes, not that either. And then immediately I paused and I said, I'm sorry. Did I just cross a boundary? And Miss Slate shared what we talked about earlier, to which case I thanked them both. I apologized to Miss Lively again, and I was in the middle of, getting everything ready. I think at one point I let Miss Lively know that she had something in her teeth before filming because we were getting ready to go shoot. And then I came back later, 5 minutes later, before we started filming, and I thanked Miss Slate for what she had said. I said something along the lines of, that can't be easy. I wish you didn't need to say what you said, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I apologized again to Miss Lively for using the word sexy as it related specifically to her character's wardrobe. Were the cameras recording when that exchange happened? The camera for the movie? Any cameras? I believe there are some behind the scenes cameras filming, yes. Have you watched the video from that exchange? I have. Have you produced the video from that exchange in this case to Miss Lively? I believe every single piece of video as it relates to the movie was produced from my attorneys. When did you last watch that scene, that recording? January maybe? You didn't mention anything about missing the HR meeting. Did you say anything about missing the HR meeting? Oh, yes, I did. In response to Jenny Slate's kind of, as I mentioned earlier, joke, as she was saying, we don't say that anymore. I immediately responded and said, I guess I missed the sexual harassment meeting. Did you miss the sexual harassment meeting? That's why I made the joke, because I did not miss the sexual harassment meeting. All right, let's look at a document. And shocking, we actually have Blake Lively's deposition talking about the onesie. So we'll start it here on page 52. There was a table that we were all acting around that was probably in the middle of the bar, but we hadn't begun the scene yet, so we were just in the midst of the bar scene. And what happened specifically? With what? With him using the term sexy or hot. He asked me to remove a coat that I was wearing, which was a wardrobe coat, which was a part of the look that had been photographed and shared for the scene. And when I arrived to set, he asked me, once I was on set amongst others, I remember once again Jenny Slate standing there, and he said, "Can you take off your coat?" And I thought it was a more interesting outfit to wear the coat. I thought it was more eclectic and dynamic. And he said, "Well, we want to see it without the coat." So I took the coat off, and under the coat I was wearing a onesie that was zipped low with a lace bra peeking out, because the scene after this is a sex scene, or a hookup scene rather, and he asked me to take off the coat, and I'm standing amongst cast and crew and extras, and I felt on display, and he said, "I think you look sexy," and I said, "That's not what I'm going for," and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, hot," and I said, "Ugh, not that either." And then he said, "Oh, well, I guess I missed the HR meeting," and looked at me. I remember him being aware of Jenny Slate and getting a little huffy and walked away. And I performed the scene without the coat. When you say you... When you say use the term huffy, was he getting huffy or were you getting huffy? It felt like he was. And you said that one of you walked off. He did. Were there other people wearing onesies at the time in that scene? Yes. Who else was wearing a onesie in that scene? The characters I recall were Justin Baldoni was wearing it. Well, first of all, Justin Baldoni is not a character. Jenny Slate is not a character. Hasan Minhaj are not characters. Those are actors. So right away you can already tell here. She says the characters I recall, and then she calls them by their real name. She should have said the actors I recall, because you can already tell right there. There's no difference in her mind of actors and characters. The characters I recall were Justin Baldoni was wearing it for his character, Jenny Slate was wearing it for her character, and Hasan Minhaj was wearing it for his. Did you ever have a conversation with Justin Baldoni about that incident? Yes. When did you have a conversation with him about it? My recollection is that there was more than one occasion. Do you recall the first one after the actual event? Yes. Where did that take place? On the set. And did you initiate that conversation, or did he? He did. What did he say? He attempted to excuse and justify and backpedal. He said that he acknowledged that I don't know the exact words, but that he, is someone who makes mistakes, and he wasn't making points that I felt were coherent. I didn't understand quite what he was saying, and I don't believe Jenny did either. She then jumped in to talk about dynamics on a set and how comfortable it can be when you are getting unwarranted comments, and he never asked me if I was okay. He never told me that that was inappropriate, that he personalized those comments, and that it would never happen again, and that he understood the mistake that had been made and acknowledged that what had happened. And I never felt reassurance that he understood to tell me that he wouldn't put me in that situation again. I understood that he knew he had made a mistake, but it felt like he was trying to get me on board with understanding why that was okay. What did he say that gave you the indication that he was trying to get you on board with this being okay? Like I said, I don't remember the specific words he said, because he wasn't really making a lot of coherent points. He had been in what felt like a retaliatory mood since I said to him, "That's not what I'm going for," and not that either. That was something that I knew of him when I expressed the boundary, that behavior. And I was always very uncomfortable afterwards, because I knew that I had to be in scenes and maintain some level of chemistry and camaraderie with this person. So those were all very unsettling moments where there was a lot coming up. Did he ever say, when you spoke to him about it, did he ever ask you whether he had crossed the line? I think I made it pretty clear he had crossed a line. Did he ever say, though, did I cross the line? Did he ever ask you? Objection. I believed him to have an understanding that he crossed the line from his behavior. And I understand that you have that understanding, but as you sit here today, you don't recall whether or not he asked you whether he crossed the line. Is that correct? I think it was very obvious that I felt he had crossed the line. I can't tell you what's in his head, but I can tell you that I was quite clear. Right. I'm just asking for your recollection of what he said right after. And so if you recall, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But do you recall him asking you if he had crossed the line? I don't recall him asking me anything. I recall him speaking at me. Okay, was this incident on the same day that he complimented your outfit, or was this a different day? It was the same day. So we had talked about what you were wearing, your personal clothes earlier, and now you say that Justin said hot and sexy, and I'm trying to find out what you were wearing when he said that. Objection. When he said that, it was after he asked me to remove the coat, the wardrobe coat, from over the top of the onesie that I was wearing. So at that point, I was wearing a onesie that was zipped low with a burgundy lace bra peeping out. And what were you wearing that was part of the wardrobe for the scene? That. What about the coat? Yes, the coat was also wardrobe for the scene. Had the coat been approved in advance? That was my understanding. By whom? Objection. I don't know who made approvals, but when you do a fitting, you take photos for any of the decision makers to approve. And if there is an issue, the wardrobe designer will come up to you and then it skips like 4 pages. The time in which he told me I looked sexy and I looked hot, yes, I am claiming that. Any other time that he told me I looked sexy that I'm claiming? Yes. Not me specifically, no. Were you uncomfortable or felt like you were harassed as a result of hugging and touching? Objection. The first time, no. When was the first time? Well, there was a ton of hugs. Do you recall the first time? No. Okay. I can recall the first time on set, like the first day on set. And are you alleging that you felt uncomfortable or sexually harassed as a result of hugging on the set? Objection. There is more context. Go ahead. The first day on set, there was a lot of hugs. And I made an announcement. I said, okay, great. We all hugged each other. We all liked each other. We're all happy to be here. Let's not do that every day. Like, we got it. We're all happy to be here. Let's do our work. And the rest of the crew, to my recollection, didn't insist upon it. It was, if there was an organic moment, they may hug each other. I'm not sure. But the difference with Justin and Jamie is that they would come for the hug every day. And if you didn't hug them, they would become prickly and standoffish and shut down. So my issue with the hugging and touching is when a boundary is expressed and the boundary is not respected, or when the boundary affects the work because of the person's reaction to receiving a boundary, physical boundary. And do you recall specifically any instances where you didn't provide a hug to Justin and or Jamie and you felt like you were somehow punished or responded to in a negative way? I often tried to busy myself so that I didn't have to give hugs. Sometimes it was easier just to do it and get it over with so that the work wouldn't be affected, because I found Justin would be less collaborative. And so I remember on a flower shop day, he was attempting to give me a hug. Ew. And I really, really didn't want to be touched or be forced to touch him. And so I was viewing the shop in awe. And then the shop was amazing. And I really busied myself with remarking on the production design and every detail so I could avoid having to hug him. And he, followed along behind me. And that was felt like it was always expected that we would do that. And how many times did you not hug Justin and he responded negatively? My recollection is that every time I didn't hug him, he would shut down. Was that every day? No, there were times where it was easier to just hug him. But every day that you didn't hug him, your testimony is that he would shut down. My recollection is that he would become prickly. Yes. What do you mean by prickly? I mean, the warmth, his warmth felt tied to physical affection. And while that's something I can understand in a personal setting, in a work setting, it was really hard. Have you ever used the word sexy or hot with Justin referring to yourself? To myself? Yes. Not to my recollection, to me personally. Have you ever used the word sexy or hot with Justin to refer to something you were wearing or that you proposed to wear in the film? In the context of the film, in the creative context, yeah, I would use the word sexy. More than once? I don't recall, but I would imagine so. And what about hot? Did you use that term in connection with the film? Objection. I don't recall. You might have or you might have not. You just don't recall. Objection. I don't recall, but only in the context of, and then it skips. Honestly, I kind of feel like going over Blake Lively's entire deposition again because it's only about 100 pages and I feel like we kind of get a sense of like her delusion. So far it's the word sexy and hugging. Too much hugging. Too much hugging. Oh my gosh. I do want to go over just some interesting pages I found in Justin and Jamie's deposition, and then that'll be it. Okay, let's start with Justin's, just an interesting section I found, and it's on page 246. In this section, it's Michael Gottlieb asking Justin Baldoni about the text that he sent to Jen Abel, where it says, we're going to need something like this, and it's one of the texts that talks about that the Blakeskis and Blake Lively herself are using a lot to prove the smear campaign. I don't think it does that, but this is Justin's answer for it. So he's like really grilling him about how Jen Abel was going to use the word friction in one of the stories. Like Blake and Justin, there was a lot of friction on set, and then Sony did not like the word friction and kind of freaked out. Isn't it in fact true that the use of the word friction was itself a press strategy to get ahead of a particular narrative? Objection. I'm not sure. I feel like there's only so many words you can use to describe in a positive way what was experienced. Would you be surprised to learn that Tag and Miss Abel had specifically discussed you using the word friction in order to plant a seed and get ahead of a narrative? Objection. I don't agree with the way that you characterized that question. Did you agree with Sony that the word friction at a time when there was speculation in the fan community about a feud was clickbait? Objection. I don't remember agreeing with much of anything Sony was saying during that time, including their advice about how to market the film. I believe from day one, before I even sold the film to Sony or partnered with them, we had disagreements on how to market the film. And is it in response to that message about friction from Miss Abel that you sent Miss Abel the message, the screenshot of the Hailey Bieber thread from Twitter, right? No, it's not. No. You said it in a response to what? Would you mind reading me the time of my message and the time of the Hailey Bieber message? Sure. The time of the first message from Miss Abel is at 10:42 a.m. and the time of your message to Miss Abel about Hailey Bieber is at 12:06 p.m. So I don't have a calculator, but could you help me with how much time is between those two texts? I think you know how much time is between those two texts. I generally don't know how much time. What is it you would like to say? Well, your question was it a response? And your testimony, I gather, is no, it was not. That is my testimony. That is not a response. Okay, what were you responding to when you said, this is what we would need, and you sent the text, the Twitter thread of Hailey Bieber? Objection. I don't agree with the question. I can't answer that. What were you sent? What were you trying to convey? No, strike that. Why did you send this text message at 12:06 p.m. to Miss Abel in which you say, as read, this is what we would need, and the only thing you have put into the text message is a screenshot of a Twitter thread where the line at the top says, Hailey Bieber's history of bullying many women, not just Selena Gomez, throughout the years, thread. Objection. That's a very long question you just asked me. Why did you send that to Miss Abel? But I can't answer the why. It was not a response. That's why I couldn't answer the question. Why did you send it to Miss Abel? Again, we were in a place of defense, and as you may have seen from many of the early text threads you've shown me, I was afraid. At this point, I felt like I was up against Goliath, and Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, and everyone in their circle, Hugh Jackman, Sean Levy, Taylor Swift. By that point, as I testified earlier, I was essentially forced or threatened to step down off my film. I wasn't able to finish my own film, even considering it tested higher. Somehow, the actress of my movie, who was not a producer, was able to take complete control of the film. By this point, Miss Lively had requested that my name be removed, so I had my film by credit removed. I was removed from the majority of marketing materials, from the poster. I was being removed for the most part from the trailer. I know that she had been working with Taylor Swift to make sure that she got the song that she wanted in the film, and I had assumed that that was not a battle or a fight I could ever win. All of the cast had unfollowed me, which is a very public thing to do right before a movie comes out, all in unison. And at that time, I was being threatened via my agent that if I didn't release a statement, then the gloves would come off. Now, I don't know the exact sequence of the time in which I sent that text, but I will tell you that the feeling and the aura around the environment that was created, not by me at that time, created a lot of fear. I didn't know what was possible, so we were in a defensive mode because at this point, I didn't know what Miss Lively or her group of powerful Hollywood elites were capable of. So I saw a message or I saw a tweet, which I did not read, and I saw that it was a celebrity woman who has a history of bullying, and I resonated with the term bullying because to me, that was a true statement to what I experienced. I felt I was being very bullied, so I sent that to Ms. Abel on a whim in an emotional state, but I made sure to preface it with, this is what we would, with an emphasis and the operative word being would need. Not that we need to do this, not that I want this, but this is what we would need if lies were to be spread about me intentionally. The gloves would come off. Conversation hadn't happened at the time you sent this, right? So then we can imagine that the conversation, it was all mixed into the same feeling. But the feeling I had was everything else that I said. You hadn't been threatened yet. Objection. I wouldn't agree with that. You mentioned having your film by credit removed. Yes. Do you know what another word for the film by credit is in Hollywood? I would love for you to educate me. Have you ever heard it referred to as a vanity credit? No. Do you understand that there is significant controversy in your industry, over the use of the film by credit? I was not aware. Are you aware that it has been criticized by a number of directors because it conveys that all of the people who work on a movie are less important than the director? Objection. I was not aware until you said that. Did Miss Lively, was she the cause of your film by credit being removed from this movie? What was relayed to me was that Miss Lively requested it be removed. Do you know what other directors you admire and look up to with respect to the film by credit? Objection. I wouldn't know. Would you want to have the credit that's known as the vanity credit be something you sought on a film written by Colleen Hoover with the screenplay written by a woman with many women acting on it, and you want a credit that's known as the vanity credit attached to your name? Objection. Until you brought it up right now, this was the first I'd ever heard of it. You never thought to ask? Objection. I'm not sure how I can ask about something I don't know about. Did Miss Lively remove you from the trailer? What was related to me was that she was attempting to. Who had approval authority over the trailer? What do you mean exactly? Who had approval authority over the trailer that was released? Who was in charge? I believe Miss Lively. You believe Blake Lively had the approval authority over the film trailer that was released for the film It Ends With Us? From my understanding, in many ways, that's what she claimed in her letter to the Producers Guild of America. Did you ever ask Sony's president why your film by credit was removed? Sony's president relayed to Jamie, it's my understanding, or it could have been Angie, why my film by credit was removed. Did you ever confirm with anyone who actually made the decision about the final composition of the trailer? Objection. I was having some conversations with Angie Giannotti and some of the people involved in the trailer. Did you do a promotional event at the release upon the release of the trailer? I did. Was Miss Lively there? She was not. Was Colleen Hoover there? Yes. Was there a floral pop-up shop? I believe there was. Did you make bouquets? With Miss Hoover, I did. You and Miss Hoover made bouquets? I believe that's what I just said. For influencers and fans, it was a pop-up shop for influencers and fans, correct. I really don't think that Blake Lively understands the entire can of worms that she's opened in this lawsuit and the way that she is shitting on every single director who uses a film by credit. A film by credit is very well known, and now I know that there is articles that are out there, and now it's like become this thing where it's like a vanity credit. It's not a vanity credit. A film by credit is very important to have on the poster. Many directors use it, many filmmakers, especially if you have written, directed, and produced and star in the film. Instead of having your name all over the poster or whatnot, you just have, it's a film by you. You brought it through development, you wrote the damn thing, you produced it, and then you directed and acted in it. Or even if you don't act in it, I mean, you created it as a film by you. And this is just, I feel like everyone's need to like be important and be acknowledged that they don't like the filmmaker using a film by credit. I think it's insane. I think you should be able to use a film by credit. I mean, it's kind of nuts. But anyway, that's something that I found very interesting. And he was really scared. I mean, the way he talks about being scared of like Ryan and Hugh Jackman and Taylor Swift and Sean Levy and Bradley Cooper, who somehow has managed to not have any accountability in this thing. I mean, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were brought up, but Bradley Cooper, who was at the screening as well as is thanked in the credits by Blake Lively, ghost. No one talks about him. But I just want to talk very quickly. Last thing is something I found interesting in JAMEY HEATH's deposition, and then that's it. Okay, I keep saying that, but this one's really it. And honestly, I will say, I do believe that Ezra Hudson is a lot of a harder questioning attorney, I would say, or she just really doesn't like JAMEY, or she's just really good at her job. She's very, very tough. But it starts here on page 532, I think. Is it 535? It starts right here on page 535. It's highlighted. They first talk about Colleen Hoover. I mean, this isn't the first time they talk about Colleen Hoover in this deposition, but that's kind of like where it starts. Okay, counsel talked to you yesterday about Miss Hoover's experiences on the set and what she has testified to in this case, right? Objection, I don't recall. Okay, at least with respect to then 3 women involved in this film, Miss Lively, Miss Slate, and Alex Sachs coming into August of 2024, how do you think it's possible that by then you did not recognize indications of their discomfort and concerns about what has happened on the set and people's on-set behavior? Objection. In order to have this conversation or for me to give testimony, it's not really a conversation. I don't know how this is working. We're going to have to separate Alex Sachs because other than what I heard and some testimony and up until then, also would not go to the premiere. Up until that time, we were fine and on speaking terms. She and I, everything was good. So other than which I acknowledge there was a moment that they bumped heads on set, there was no indication that there was anything more than that with Alex Sachs, nor have I heard any accusations that there was more other than they bumped heads a few times. I don't want to belittle what someone may feel, but I do want to be clear that in intense situations, people bump heads all the time. I'm sure you've bumped heads with an attorney once or twice. I saw you guys going at it a few times. It happens. But then do you go and think that there is a problem with this person because you bumped heads? That's what the experience was with Alex. So I think it's important to separate that from anything else because there was no indication for me at that point to think when you say other women to include Alex, if that's fair. I don't know whether it's fair or not, but I accept your answer. And I guess my question is respectfully, your perspective of these various incidents seems very different from a lot of these women's perspective about various incidences, including Alex Sachs. Okay. And my question is, how do you think it's possible that you missed so many signs of all these women's complaints about on-set behavior up until August of 2024? Objection. This is why I'm struggling at this moment. Here's why. There's always rules to this deposition, and I'm just a person that just wants to have a conversation. So I'm trying to follow the idea of what is like the proper process and just have a conversation. Just tell me whatever your answer is. So I'm going to be mindful of it all and just do my best. Sure, fair. We had a hard time before there was any alleged discomfort that I was aware of or Justin. Outside of she was unhappy that he asked about the trainer about her weight, which fine. She had a feeling about it, whatever she interpreted by that. But was nothing in our radar of any sort of issue other than she had some feelings about him asking someone about her weight. Fine. Now we're in pre-production, and I don't say this illfully towards her, but she's very controlling, and Justin was managing through this. And when I say controlling, wonderfully kind and generous in her expression, but it feels a bit, unless you end up bending to what she's wanting, it keeps going. So we were trying to manage that. And we're in wardrobe and we're having issues with wardrobe. There is a few other things I can get to, but I'm just kind of giving you a clear picture. Now we've started filming, and there was already been like a, how do we manage her personality? And all of that comes with her. Now we're filming and she gets COVID. During the COVID period, there were some conversations. I know clearly now she had some conversations with Jenny. And for the first time, Justin and I hear about that there were some feelings about something was through a conversation with Angie. And it was very casual. It wasn't a big red flag. It was, she's got COVID. She's unhappy. I called to talk to her about, I think it was about the script or wardrobe or something. And she said on that conversation she had shared, she don't really like it when you refer to her as sexy or her wardrobe as sexy. And Jamie, I think she said you showed her a video and she thought she was, like it was, let's not show her any videos. It's like, okay, yeah, it was in the context of, but okay. But she gets better from COVID and we come back on June 1st. And then we had this meeting and she talked about all of this stuff, her upset with getting COVID. She had some concerns with the trailer. She wanted to address and clear the air. And she said, and as I said yesterday, Jamie, when you showed me this video, I thought you were showing me porn. I know it wasn't. Of course it was your wife, but I was like, okay. She wasn't saying anything that it was anything other than that's what she thought it was. And yes, I got that she didn't really care for that. I mean, she brought up me going into her trailer like that moment. But all she said was like, and when I asked you to look away at some point, you made eye contact with me. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. And she says, I'm not saying you were trying to cop a look. Okay, great. It didn't feel like it had gravity to it, but she wanted to express it. She mentioned to Justin about him referring to her wardrobe as sexy and acknowledged that he apologized, but she wanted to address it. So I felt it was addressed. It was adults having a moment, sharing what they would like an adjustment made. It wasn't just those things. It also, she had come to me about toilet paper that was in her, that she didn't have enough toilet paper into something. And it was, I don't want to say that it was a bit of a problem, but it was like it bothered her as if that were my job necessarily. Okay. And then there were some thoughts that she had and we talked about them and we moved on. And there was no other suggestion of anything that was uncomfortable. This was June 1st. Other than now we're dealing with the strike. There's production things, something every production maybe would have to deal with. We had new ADs. We had production stuff happening, which made it contentious because for a lot of people, you just walk through some of these hurdles and you figure out a way through them. And maybe for some others, they are annoyed with them or blame someone else for them. And that's what I felt like was happening. But we had discussed it and addressed and moved. And then we got shut down, phase 1. But there were no other conversations about anything she wasn't comfortable with or wanted some course adjustment. So now we're done. Now Justin has now got 5 or 6 months before we come back in January. We don't know when the date is, right? But now during that time, he's kind of getting ahead of the movie and he's editing it. He doesn't have a full movie to edit, but he can edit and get ahead of like the first half that we shot. So we kind of start putting some of the pieces together. And at some point, she wanted to be involved. And he was conflicted with this because typically an actress, an actor is not involved in this process at this stage where he gets to play in the sandbox for himself and throw everything at the wall and just look at what he's got without the judgment or the eyes or the perspective of anyone, including his producers. And he was trying to manage that. And we were also managing it with someone who we were unsure, that we had experienced a lot of trying to manage all that came with Blake. And it felt then, when we would try to manage it, there felt to be some feelings about it. But we get through it, okay? Nothing other than like production stuff and then just maybe ego issues, whatever it is. Then we think we're coming back after the strike. And then we get this production letter. But we hadn't had any discussions about this since anything that may have been insinuated in there. And there was no... We talked about it. What does this exactly mean? Okay. And then we looked at it and it's like, well, this is all reasonable. But yeah, there was a sense of is this, but we came to the conclusion through consultation, like this just means what it is. Let's get the movie done. It does say in there, in lieu of an HR complaint, we just need these things to be okay. That doesn't mean that there's any allegations or anything. It doesn't mean that there's anything going on. And then we go back to set. We filmed the movie with, according to her, from what I heard, everything was fine. Continued to be fine since June of 23. And we finished the movie without any issue other than what I keep mentioning is Justin navigating what we had determined that she was in control now of this movie one way or another. Whether she was in physical control of it, but Justin was responding. All of us were responding. How do we manage without upsetting her? I don't know how to put this fully in tangible things over every aspect, but this was the feeling and Sony felt it too. But we finished it. And now we're in post and we're like, okay, we're done with the production now. Justin gets to get back in his protected time. And then more stuff kept happening. So when you ask me, how can I not see all the signs? There was. Not until we got through this period. I left one thing out. Forgive me. Let me back up. We had the January 4th meeting, but even in that moment, right or wrong, it felt like her clearing the air. It had been 6 months before we had any discussions on June 1st when she wanted to clear the air. It was 6 months later. Everything was fine other than some production stuff, and she wanted to clear the air, and then it was like, okay, let's get back to work. Whatever she expressed in that meeting wasn't anything new. It was all stuff that we were hearing that was happening 6 months, 8 months prior, which we had never heard before. But there was no anything other than Justin's like in complete shock because we don't agree with anything that she's mentioning. But still, it was not, there was no feelings of like, therefore I need. It was just like, let's clear the air. And this is why I wanted the protections list and move on. So I don't think I think it's a fair question why you would ask it. It's easy now at the end of this to put all of these puzzle pieces together and say, here's the house. This is what it looks like. How was it? But when you're in real time and you're having conversations and you and I walk down the hallway and we bump heads accidentally and I go, oh, sorry. And we worked it out. And even though I just bumped your head and we're good. But then later you might say it was something else. Well, I thought we were good. It didn't seem like more than that. So I don't want to keep going on. Maybe I'm taking too much of your time. We did not believe that there was all these signs as you suggested until now. People started unfollowing Justin, then all of this stuff. I go, what's going on? That to us, not an indication that there was other women that testified on behalf of Blake. I hear that. Colleen does not make any mention of it. she's got some contract or she's upset about a coffee table book, which I'm sure if you look more into, you'll see the discussions we were having. It's not as if it's being mentioned. There's no issue with Blake with Colleen until she started spending time with Blake, as far as I know. Some of the sequence may be a little out of order. I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out, but I wanted to give you context here to your question. Dang, Jamie. And I really wanted to end on Jamie Heath's monologue there because he pretty much sums it up so beautifully. That's literally what happened when you're dealing with someone like this, with like someone like Blake. I mean, he even says like, there's a lot to deal with when you're dealing with Blake, you know? And then all of these all of these little things that she had already brought up, they were dealt with. And then you're literally asking like the CEO, like the head of the company, because you don't like the toilet paper, you want more toilet paper. Like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But he's so right. Imagine you're working with someone and you bump them by accident and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. They're like, oh yeah, no worries. I know you weren't trying to like cop a feel. And you're like, yeah, no, absolutely, I wasn't. And then 6 months later, they bring it up in some freaking meeting and they twist it all around. It's wild. But anyway, that's all of the stuff I found pretty juicy in the last couple of days, just re-looking over these depositions and stuff. But yeah, let me know what you guys want next. I'm thinking tomorrow, maybe revisiting some of Blake's deposition, because just like reading that little bit, I was like, oh yeah, this girl did say, you know, all of that stuff. But anyway, I hope you're having the best day. I'm having a great day today. It's actually been a really good week. 2 auditions, banged them out tonight. I'm here. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I feel like I released a bunch of stuff the other day, and ever since then, I kind of just feel a bit lighter, like it got out of me. And I'm sorry it got out of me, and I hope not dumped onto you guys, but I just wanted to share that sometimes it's not all peaches and roses. Peaches and roses? Yeah, anyway, you guys know what I'm saying. I truly appreciate all of you so much, and thanks for being here as we continue every day to fight for justice for Justin. Hopefully Judge Lyman comes back soon. I do miss the Friday night dumps in the court. I will be honest, like every Friday night there is dumps and now they're not there. So maybe Judge Lyman will give us a little dump in tomorrow, it being Friday. Please join me tomorrow on Friday. I will be back here where I read out some of your comments, and I already have a few lined up. Can't wait to see you. Have the best night. Let me know what you think about all of this, okay? I'll talk to you soon. Bye.